Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kramer. Our guest today is Sally Z. Let's talk about how you, as the business owner, you're destined to be the face of your business. Every opportunity that you have, which we're going to get into, right, Sally?
Yep.
To
Totally.
be right, to be the energy, the face of, the voice of your business is an opportunity, a beautiful opportunity. And we're always talking about marketing, and we're talking about how you get more people interested in you and you get attention, and how do you get those new clients and customers, and nobody's talking about this. Let's talk about it, Sally.
Yay. I love it. Hi, Alicia. It's so great to be here. I love talking about all of these ideas. I'm so passionate about, especially empowering big-hearted entrepreneurs, change makers, business owners like you to really be brave, be authentic, and step out front and share their voice and their story. Not just because I think it's awesome to hear people's voices and their stories. And as a professional speaker and a coach, like I love that stuff. But because it is truly the most powerful way to get people to know, like, and trust you, to fast track connection and get them to decide really quickly, are you my person or aren't you? And the sooner they figure that out, the sooner they can move forward on their customer journey with you. So that's what it's all about, I think.
I love it. And I'm going to take a quick segue.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we just talked about before I hit the record button for this interview, because sometimes it's those conversations that we have off camera that's like, oh man, that would have been so good to include, because that's where like the real, you really start getting into the nitty gritty of things.
Totally. When people don't think they're recorded, all of a sudden the real good stuff comes out. It's so true. That's why just hit record or like recording after. I love it.
So I had mentioned to you, because you asked me the question, what at the end of this interview is going to make you feel like, it was a really great interview. And I said, it's the energy. It's the energy that the guest brings. When someone is showing up and they've got that great energy, it's so much more enjoyable to listen to. It's more engaging. I've had a lot of really fantastic guests on this podcast, people who are so intelligent. They're very successful in many respects. And sometimes those conversations can be a little dry, and it loses that individual loses that opportunity. And that's what you help your clients do, to really capture those moments and bring forth that energy so they can have that connection, so that somebody says, wait a second, are they talking about that thing that I was just thinking about that I need in my life, in my business? And they get sucked in, because not only are they talking about what they need, but they're showing up in a way that really grabs that new prospective client or customer.
Yeah,
So
you just hit on it, Alicia. You really did. It is truly not about what you know. It is about who you are. And that is a hard thing to let go of, because you have a business. You have created this entity that you're sharing with the world because of what you know or what you've done. And we want that to be enough. And it's a huge mistake. So I'm a professional speaker and a coach. And so I'm often helping people craft their signature talks or their keynotes, and then helping people build up the confidence to deliver those really well. And they come to me and they're like, I'm an expert, right? They're leading their business in some way, or an organization, or they themselves are an entrepreneur. And they're like, here's my intellectual property. Here's what I know. Here are the three things, or all of the elements of knowledge that we want to pass along to our audience. And we think if we can make the content so good that people will be like, I want to know what that person knows, and then I'm going to go get what they have. I mean, the truth is, all of what we know can be found on the internet for free. You want to figure out how to do something, the internet will answer it for you. Chat GPT is going to answer it for you. All the AI solutions are about that how. But the thing that AI is never going to be able to do is that intangible you thing, that energy that you're talking about, the experience of I just have a connection with this person. This person um, understands my life. I feel this empathy, this resonance that is so important to create between and I'm going to use these terms really broadly. So even if you don't consider yourself a speaker, if you are speaking, if you are out front, if you're on social media, if you are at a conference, if you're on a podcast, on a panel, any of those external moments, you're the speaker and you're talking to an audience, and there's this intangible connection that can happen. That's what we want to create. And I've learned how to do that and learned how to teach it to other people in a way that feels authentic to them, because that is truly the key. It's really not about information overload, getting your content or your slides exactly right. It's not nearly that as much as it is about your own ability to show up and be present and connect. And I think you feel that, right? In a podcast, you can tell when somebody's like, okay, this person is really with me in this moment and there's something magical happening here.
Yeah, definitely. I
Mm-hmm.
want to speak to those listening who might be under the spell that they're not interesting, they're not confident, they're not charismatic.
Mm-hmm.
Speak to that for a moment.
Yeah. Most people are convinced of that. I love how you put it, that it's a spell. It does seem like it's a spell. I feel like most of my job is demystifying some of those beliefs and ideas that are holding people back. And the truth is, how you make something interesting, magical, relatable, have that charismatic energy is less about the thing itself and more about the perspective that you shape with that thing. So I talk a lot about seeing with story eyes. So one of the most magical things that you can do to create that energy and resonance and connection is share a story. And people are like, oh, storytelling is so soft. And it's like, really, I'm not a storyteller. I don't have anything interesting happening in my life. Who am I? All of that I hear again and again and again. And the truth is, making a powerful story is about seeing the magical moments that are happening around you all the time. I don't really care about the person who has done that huge, impressive thing. Like, good for them. Way to go. Applause and cheering you on. But that doesn't resonate with me. The stories I want to hear and the stories that I want more people to be telling are the stories that turn the everyday moments into something that shifts your mindset, that opens your perspective, that makes you pause and take stock of your own life in a different way, and helps you approach an idea in a new way because of the littlest things that can happen. Like, that's where the magic can be in your storytelling. You don't have to have the most incredible life, because the truth is, the incredible things are happening in our life all the time, but we often don't see it, don't take the time to process it if it happens, forget about it when we do have those moments. Like, they are passing us by. The magic of life is passing us by. So if you want to, and if you yourself are telling yourself right now, like, well, I don't have that thing. I'm not a speaker. I am not an extrovert. I hear that a lot. I'm not an extrovert, so I can't do this. You love being on stage, you're a performer, all of those things. It's like anybody has the opportunity, and especially given social media as a stage for you that's waiting for you, given that opportunity to say, I just had this experience at the grocery store, and to lift the lid on everyday life and experiences and find something meaningful for your audience in it to help them see differently, think differently, move through the world in a different way. So it's really has nothing to do with your expertise or experience level or your skills as a public speaker, your extroversion, none of that. It's truly about your willingness to show up authentically and offer an insight that you are experiencing for your audience, that's going to help them in a meaningful way. So I just feel like I just gave a little TED talk there. That was like the whole thing. That was the whole thing.
Well, let's bring this sort of full circle into the realm of business and marketing, because what we're talking about here is not just posting videos of yourself on Instagram, oh, I went to the gym today, look at my bicep, right? Or,
Yeah.
I went to the grocery store and, I saw that the peppermint mocha is out.
Yeah.
Like we want to come as our authentic self, but we also want to find that right balance between, how does it serve us in our business? Now, since you are helping business owners in this realm, I think you're probably the perfect person to ask this question to. So, as we are inundated by all of these influencers who are building up this massive following by being very authentic and just posting random stuff all over, we're all of our left brain analytical thinkers are saying, what's the metrics on that, right? How can I calculate my my ROE on that? Am I seeing a tangible benefit to that? So can we bring a little bit of that element of tangible sort of results based methodology to this strategy?
Absolutely. So I grew up professionally speaking to teenagers, and it was a really incredible way to learn the skills of engagement. Like, how do you really engage people in things that they're not necessarily jazzed about? Like, I was talking to teenagers about respect and kindness and courage, and they're like, you sound like my mom, right? But once I learned how to leverage the power of storytelling and make it persuasive, that dynamic totally changed. And that's what we are doing as business owners. We are in the realm of persuasion every single day. And so stories are your tool. They are the tool that you want to use in order to engage people in a powerful way. The data out there is bonkers about how stories make something meaningful that doesn't have meaning before that. So if you are a business owner, let's say that you have a product-based business and you are out there and you're just talking about all the features of the product, and you're just showing pictures of the product. They're like, cool, it looks nice, but I don't yet understand what this has to do with me. And stories help take an idea and make it meaningful, make it tangible. There's some really cool brain science out there about what happens when we hear a story. We literally can feel like physiologically similar to if it was actually happening to us. There's some really wild, wonderful neuroscience about the power of stories. And so as a business owner, you're not just out there, you're not on social media just being like, here I am with my mocha latte, and like, who cares, right? We are still filtering every piece of content that you share through the lens of, why should they care? What does this have to do with them? Because what we are going for is this magic word called resonance. And as soon as your audience goes, oh, yeah, I have been there, I get that. Yes, you understand me. And now I'm invested in your journey, because even if we're different people, even if we are living different lives, there is some sort of universal thread that connects your experience to mine. And once we kind of find that thread, then you're going to pull people in there. So if it's okay, I'd love to share the basic approach that I recommend for people when they're like, okay, I know I need to tell more stories on mine.
Absolutely.
What do
Give
I
it to
do?
us.
Okay, fantastic. It's a series of 3 M's. It's called moment, meaning, and move. Okay, this is your framework. This is your persuasive framework for storytelling. So think of your story as a moment rather than a story, because people tend to feel a little intimidated by the idea of stories. Like, I have to be a storyteller now. Like, I'm not dramatic like that. I don't have the experience for that. That's fine. You don't need it. But what I do want you to do is bring me into a moment that you have experienced or observed or, remembered in whatever way. But you're going to bring me into one particular moment. Okay. That's all you're going to do, is tell us about the moment. Then after you've done that, you're going to ask yourself and answer, why does this audience care about this moment? What does this have to do with them? Okay. Because if you just tell the moment, that's a nice piece of storytelling, but who cares, right? We want to make sure that we're filtering every story we tell through the lens of why it matters to them. So you have the opportunity to create meaning from that moment and connect it to your audience. So I'm trying to think of an example. Uh, my my dog right now, okay, you might be able to hear her. She is sitting right by my desk chewing on this bone. Like, it feels really loud to me. Alicia assured me that it's not that loud, but even if it was, okay, let's just say we're having a moment here on the podcast and you can hear this chewing. I am telling this story later. I'm going to be like, I was on this podcast with Alicia, the Mind Your Business podcast, super excited about it. And Bailey, my dog, who is obsessed with me and will not leave my side, is chewing this bone. And I am internally really frustrated about it. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is not going how I want it to go. If I let her out of the room, she's going to scratch at the door and that's going to be annoying. So I'm just kind of letting it go and allowing this moment to be imperfect. This is a very meta situation, very meta story, because it's happening as I'm telling it. But I'm later, if I'm going to share that with my audience, the message and the meaning that I want to pull from that is, listen, we are real people. You are a real person. You are not a perfect, nobody is that. And so for me to say to Alicia, like, the dog is chewing, can you hear it? And she's like, if they do, no problem, because we're going to be real people together today on that. And that was a really important reminder for me. I believe that, but we tend to, in these moments, get overly fixated and worried about showing up in a specific way. And that keeps us from really being real and allowing our real true selves to be seen. There's the message and the meaning part that I'm pulling from that moment. And then after you do that, so you've got moment, meaning, and then the final M is called move. And that is where you are answering the question for them, what's their next move? What should they do from there? It's a very simple framework. Moment, meaning, move. And when you do that, you're really leveraging the persuasive power of stories and what they can do for us in our brains. If you start instead with the meaning, it's important for us to show up and be our imperfect or ourselves, like, you don't have to show up perfectly. That's the same point. But if you start with that, We don't have anything emotive to hang on to. And the brain loves emotion. So we've got to really lean into the emotive power of stories to help make the point meaningful. Does that make sense?
I love it.
Okay.
You touched on so many little like psychological tidbits in there. And I would bet, and you kind of glazed over this. So I want to go into it just for a moment, because I was like, oh, there's a little light bulb moment. I love that, because I get on camera and a lot of the times I'm going straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I have my message that I want to share,
Yeah.
and let's just get right into it, and let's take whatever your problem is and let's solve it.
Yeah.
Because that's just sort of the way that my mind works.
Yes.
Right? Kind of a no BS approach. Let's not fiddle fuck or fluff it or any of that, right? Let's just get right to business, you know?
Totally.
But
Totally.
when you were talking about having the story that really gets people there with you and then going into the meaning, it's like, that's definitely an area where I could use some improvement.
Yeah. If you take away anything from the moment meaning move, it's start with a story. Now, I will say there's a little asterisk around this. And if you are being interviewed in the media, or if you have a very short time frame and you don't have control over the time, you want to start with the point, because that cannot get lost and people don't have the patience in some of those contexts to wait for you. But the truth is that is not as persuasive as if you started with a story, because the story, what exists in a story is like it's prejudgment, it's pre-defensiveness. When people are listening to a story, they don't yet know what it's about, so they haven't said yes or no yet. They're in a state of more openness to what it is you have to say. So it is so important that if you have control over the time, you can start with a story. Now, your story could be really short. Your story can be 30 seconds. It doesn't have to be a whole long thing. But what we're trying to tap into is the emotive part of our brain that opens people up and has them imagining what you're talking about for themselves. So my hope is, as I'm talking about Bailey, my dog sits under my desk, you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, my dog does this. Or you're imagining for yourself, what if your dog or an animal was sitting under there? It's lighting up different parts of your brain, and so they're engaged, they're interested, they're staying with you. Rather than if we start with the point and we say, imperfection is okay, and it's okay for you to show up imperfectly. Some people were like, well, you don't actually know that, because actually my credibility is on the line, and I have like tried to show up imperfectly and more authentically, and I just end up feeling stupid, and I'm afraid people won't take me seriously. Like, they already are telling themselves and reiterating their own narrative beliefs around this idea. And so it's really hard to create change, and it's really hard to open people up to a new way of being and thinking and doing when you aren't leaning into the leverage and leveraging the power of story. It's
Good.
Such a powerful tool.
So good. And, as a hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner, weaving in stories all the time, because I understand how it affects the subconscious mind and how it can create change. Mm-hmm. So it makes so much sense. But that's why we need coaches and mentors and experts and professionals, because let's be real, we're not all great at everything. So you give me your problem, I can help you with that. When it comes to these same principles, the same fundamentals that influence and affect the psyche of our client, our customer, from a marketing perspective, I'd imagine these skills that your clients are learning from you in some ways are shaping who they're being in their business, with their team, with their children, in other areas of their life. Because when you start to master these different skill sets that allow you to communicate, to influence, to motivate, to inspire, it matters. It makes a difference. It has a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's vulnerable. And it's part of the reason why people are resistant to, and I sometimes just say it like showing up, really being the face of your business, being the messenger of your business, leaning into stories and allowing yourself to be seen. That is vulnerable. It is really tapping into a more personal thing. And as a business owner, we tend to be like, well, I'm not sure what me and who I am, I'm not sure what that has to do with my business growth and my results. And it is directly correlated, as you, and we know this, especially in entrepreneurship and small business ownership. Who you are and the level of your own personal growth is going to be directly correlated with your business results, because you are the person. And so behind the business, even if you're not showing up out front, you're the person behind the business. And so they can only grow to the level that you are growing. Your business can really only grow to that level. And so, speaking, part of the reason I think it's such an important thing to lean into, even if you're not a speaker, like getting yourself out front, getting yourself on social media, showing your face, telling more stories, is because it forces you into personal growth. And people are like, yay, that sounds fun. Why on earth would I ever do that? It's like, it's such a powerful way to connect. And so your speaking development, I like to say, it just brings up all the shit. It's gonna, I hope it's okay. That's okay.
Well, this is not a piece. Yeah. Disclaimer. Yep. There's naughty words around here. It's gonna
Okay,
happen.
fantastic. Great. I heard you swear earlier, so I was like, oh, maybe I can do that. Maybe I can go for it. But it's just going to bring it all up, because you've got to wrestle with some of the big universal challenges of vulnerability, our own sense of perfection, our ego, judgment, imposter syndrome, fear. Like, all of that is a part of it, and it's part of business, but it's very specifically a part of speaking, showing up, speaking your story.
So for those listening who perhaps have had this dream of getting up on stage, or they just simply want to be a better speaker, this is the perfect opportunity, because we are getting towards the end of time, for you to share with our listeners how they can connect with you.
Oh, wonderful. Yes, I would love to connect with you. Even if you're not sure exactly how speaking can fit in your business, it does fit in your business, and you are the messenger of that business. So if that's something that you are curious about, please you can find me, especially on Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm there a lot, and I would love to connect with you there. It's Sally Z _ be moved on Instagram. And if you look up Sally Z on LinkedIn, you'll find me as well. But here's what I think would be most powerful for you. So I have a new book coming out soon, and I think it will be available for pre-order once you are listening to this episode. So if you go to speakingstory.com, you will get access to this book. And it is a deep dive into a lot of the strategies that we were just talking about. Whether you want to put yourself on bigger stages and make more revenue as a speaker, or you're like, I know that I need to lean into my voice and my story as a business owner and a business leader, and I'm not quite sure how to do that. This book is going to offer you the mindsets and the strategies that you need to more bravely more clearly, more authentically show up and speak your story. So if you go to speakingstory.com, you can pre-order the book. You can also grab a free 15-minute quick training to help you speak a better story in 15 minutes. And we'll do that together.
Wonderful. So you are sharing so much value. I absolutely love when guests come on and there are not just mindset shifts that people can experience, but real practical things that can be implemented and really process things in a different way and get people perhaps over their limiting belief that they can expand in certain areas of their life and business. So thank you so much, Sally, for being with us and sharing what you've shared today.
Thank you for having me on, Alicia. It was really fun, and I can't wait. Can't wait to see more of you speaking your story.
Wonderful. Well, now that is an invitation for everyone to make sure that they come back and listen to more of these fantastic episodes of the Mind of Business Success podcast, where perhaps I will be sharing more stories.
Yeah, Alicia, I can't wait. I'm cheering you on.
Of course, got to thank all of our listeners. You know, we're doing this for you. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.